Welcome to season 2 of In the Kitchen. My name is Kayla Runka. I work on our education team here at Diabetes Canada, and I will be your moderator for this series. And the theme tonight is Party Nibbles. So many of you who completed the evaluation last year mentioned that appetizers was something you were very interested in. And so we have two delicious recipes tonight brought to you by Get Cracking. Each week will consist of at least one recipe and two or more bonus recipes, one nutrition resource brought to you by Novo Nordisk, and a how-to segment to help build cooking and nutrition knowledge and skills. Last but not least, events like this would not be possible without the support of our generous partner. In the Kitchen is proudly brought to you by our presenting partner, Manulife, and we extend our heartfelt thanks to Manulife for their ongoing commitment to the diabetes community, as well as their dedication to helping Canadians live longer, better, and healthier lives. So, Marilyn, why don't you take us through that delicious egg recipe?
Okay, all right. Oh, yay. Oh my gosh, I'm full screen. I got a new computer, so look, you can see so much more of my kitchen. Anyway, this recipe is brought to you by Get Kraken. Now, I worked with Get Kraken quite a few, maybe I think it was last year. And so I am a big fan of eggs, especially for brain health as we get older. And we have eggs at least twice a week. We have them for lunches, for breakfast, and sometimes even I like lunch for dinner or breakfast for dinner. So this recipe calls for 5 eggs, and one of the big things is that don't crack your egg on the side of the bowl because like you have 100% chance of getting shell into your bowl. So always crack it on a hard surface. And I'm just going to put the shell over. I just threw it over there. Anyway, all right. So you're going to whisk up 5 eggs, and I'm just going to let they're beautiful. They're a beautiful color. Some little tips about eggs: always put them in the coldest part of your fridge, and that's not on the door. It's usually on the bottom shelf. But let's go on with this other part. So I bought an induction pan here, a little heater, so that I wouldn't have to turn around and you could see my butt. So we got the induction thing going. I put a teaspoon of oil in. It's really important to remember when you're living with diabetes or for anybody that those hidden calories of just like randomly dumping a whole ton of fat in adds a lot of calories, and we need to be watching how much energy we're consuming. So okay, so I'm going to put there's one clove of garlic that I you can chop it really finely, but what I like to do instead, and that was a quarter cup of onions. But I think do you guys already have the recipe? Is that something that you guys already have? Give me a thumbs up if you've already got the recipe.
The recipe is
Okay,
in the resource section in the chat, so anyone who
okay,
visited
so
there right now will have it. Otherwise, they'll receive it in an email tomorrow.
okay, great. Okay, good. So if you're looked, it's called for a quarter. Okay, oh good, I'm getting thumbs up. You all found it. Good for you. All right. So but when it comes to garlic, what I really like to do is I like to microplane it. And that way, here's a little tip. So the the finer you chop up garlic, the stronger the flavor. So I really want this to have a bit of a garlic hit. So I use the microplane. But you can chop it up if you want, or you can mince it, but I'm lazy and I really like the microplane. So that was about a minute or so. And then we're adding 1.5 cups of grated carrot. And I think one of the reasons I love this recipe is that we're adding more vegetables. And as the queen of fiber, I'm a big vegetable eater. And so we're sort of sneaking in vegetables, but they're finely grated, and we're just going to cook them for about 2 minutes. And so I'm going to leave that in the pan, and we'll get the rest of the ingredients going. This is a really quick thing. So you can do it in a little muffin pan, or you can do it in a big one. I'm going to show you because they freeze. I might as well get it now. So they freeze really well. So you can have them. I don't know. Did you see my butt that time? So I froze them as large ones in a large muffin tin, or you can freeze them as the little guys too. And that way they're handy. So if somebody drops over, you can just go warm these up in the oven, just so that they're nice heated through. But I really like to take them for lunch. So I use the little minis, and when I freeze them, and when I've been going to school, I'm packing my lunches again. So I just put a salad and then I break them all up. And it was actually Kayla who told me that because she was doing it. I went, that's a genius idea. So that's what I'm doing too. We're adding some dried basil, and we're adding some dried nutmeg. Okay, dried nutmeg, that's redundant because it only comes dry. Have you ever seen one of these? This is a nutmeg grater. I got this at Black Creek Pioneer Village. And this is a nutmeg. That's what a nutmeg looks like. Isn't that cool? So whenever you have the freshest of fresh is because you already ground that up right away. So I like to grind my own nutmeg, but you can buy it already ground. I'm I went to Black Creek Pioneer Village a lot when my son was little, and I saw one of the people that are dressed up, in the period that she had one. I thought, oh, I have to have this. So you're going to cook this for about 2 minutes, and then we'll just whisk this up. And then to that, I'm going to be adding a third of a cup of cornmeal. Now, this is a really important ingredient to know what you're looking for. Now, the coarse cornmeal is the stuff that's a whole grain, and you can use that if you want. But the regular cornmeal is going to be with the baked goods, and it's just regular cornmeal. So we're adding a little bit of fiber, and that's a really good thing. Okay, just going to turn this off now. You see how quick that was? That was so fast. And then we're adding 1.5 cups of grated. Now, this called for Swiss or it because it's like a quiche. I didn't even tell you what I was making. So I'm making basically a crustless quiche. So this called for Swiss cheese, which is really traditional, as is the nutmeg. But I've made this so many times. So the first time I made it, I got to tell you, I had a little bit of a disaster. And I was like, what have I done? So it leaked all over my oven. It was a mess. My oven went on fire. My husband had to clean it. And I was like, Kayla, what in the heck am I doing? So I did it again and it did it again. And I thought, I do not know what the heck I'm doing. So and if I can't do this, nobody can. So what I did is that she came over because we had to have a meeting. And she walked in and she goes, what the heck kind of pan is this? So this was the little mini pan that I was using, and this was the size of the pan that I should have been. Well, not the number, but the depth. Can you see that this is really skinny, and this is so don't be using this one, okay? No, 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 no. So you need to get the deeper one because you want each one is going to get about a tablespoon in there. Okay, so size matters. We always knew that, but it really is important when you're making, a recipe, especially if you're sort of doing a baking dish. All right. So
Marilyn,
yes,
I'm
question.
just going to jump
Yes.
in because there's some questions about substitutions in the Q&A, and while you're on the
Oh,
recipe, I thought we might just talk about them. So I know you probably
okay.
haven't tested it with these things, but a few people are asking if there's something other than the cornmeal that you think would work, and then
I
also,
too.
would this recipe work without dairy, which I think would be a bit more difficult because it does call for quite a bit of cheese.
Well, you could get the vegan cheese. It won't melt the same way, but it would work. But if you don't want to use the cornmeal, you could use cooked quinoa. This is for later on where I cook a whole grain once a week and then I have it. So I would just use a third of a cup of the cooked quinoa. It might be a little bit more wet, but that's actually okay because it's going to get. You just might have to bake it a bit longer. The biggest one, though, is that you need to really measure these carefully. So I use a tablespoon, and then you're going to just dump the tablespoon. And I already oiled this. And here's another big tip. So it says in the recipe to spray. So I don't use spray usually. So I bought it and I made a mess. And so what I normally do is I would have used that maybe for a cake pan. But because these are so little, I think I just, that was maybe one of the reasons I had a fire. Anyway, so just put a little bit of oil in a dish and then rub it around. I love my little oil brush, or you could even use like a paper towel just to make sure that you lightly greased it around so that it releases better. All right, so you would fill all of this pan up with the eggs, and I think they could like that like they used to call them mother's nature's vitamin pill. I don't know if they still call them, but I still call them that because they are a perfect protein. They have vitamins and minerals, but it's really important to use the yolk. And a lot of people just buy the whites because they're getting protein. And you're right, there is protein in the egg white, but you're missing out all the good stuff. And so I really encourage you to eat the whole egg. And now that we know for sure that it's not the cholesterol in food that's going to up your cholesterol, it's actually it's your body actually makes it as a hormone. So you don't actually have to worry about the cholesterol in eggs. It's not going to affect you. All right, now I'm just going to show you through the magic of television.
Marilyn,
Yes,
people are
yeah.
just wondering what you do with that lovely pan of carrots that you've sautéed because they weren't added to your egg bowl.
Oh my God. Well, you eat them as a side dish. Kidding. As I was doing it, I was going, this is the weirdest color. So this is what happens when, okay, I gotta tell you, when we did our run through and my name came up and it was like, it kind of threw me. And so, and I was like, well, does it have my email on it? Because everybody was saying they saw their email. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna have to change my email. And oh my goodness, life is so busy anyway. So yes, no, you're supposed to put I made a horrible pie for my daughter-in-law the other day. And I think people assume that just because I cook on television, I don't make mistakes. Oh, yes, I do. So thank you, Kayla. That was so nice. This looks so much better, doesn't it? Let's get the other two back. Okay, so this looks so much better. And so these were the muffins that I did as a big one, but I wouldn't bother putting them into a little muffin cup. That was kind of a waste. They're fine in with you grease in a nonstick pan. So this looks so much better now that this is matching. So I took this out of the oven about 15 minutes ago, and you're going to get a little knife and run around the edges just so that they release better. But I'm telling you, they are so yummy and they're so nice warm. You put them on a little party plate, and Bob's your uncle. So, uh-huh. They're really good. So, mm. The first time I made them, even though they went on fire in the oven, because I used the wrong pan, they were still so delicious. And so, sorry, my mouth's full. That's so rude. I will actually make this and I'm gonna bake these because I'm gonna take them to school tomorrow for lunch. Okay, so that was the first recipe. Your takeaway: eggs are good for your brain. Apparently, I guess I should have eaten one before I started the class. I wouldn't have forgotten that. Anyway, and eat the whole egg. So important. Crack on the side. Store your eggs not on the door of your fridge, but in the lot in the bottom shelf. It's the coldest place. And I'm just, I don't know. I don't know why eggs got a bad rap because I've been a fan of for since I was a little kid. So they're convenient, they're nutrient dense, and they are so good for you. Okay, next recipe up is really fun. And let's hope I don't mess this one up. Okay, Kayla, take it away for while I just pull this over.
While you're pulling your stuff over, I don't, maybe
Mhm.
Katie, multiple people actually have asked about why cornmeal, and is it only because of fiber? Is cornmeal known as a good source of fiber?
Oh, that's a good question. I would have to look at the nutritionals on that. I would believe like the cornmeal would be providing some texture, a little bit of lipid, some carb.
So really, so this is called degermed. So regular, can I be spotted again? So regular cornmeal doesn't have a ton of fiber. In a quarter cup, it's only 1 gram. But if you get the whole grain one, then you're going to be able to get more fiber from it, and also because it'll be a whole grain, and this is degermed. So they took the germ away from it, so it's not as nutrient dense, but it's much easier to cook with and easier to find. Okay, all right, next up. So one of my favorite things to do is, okay, I'm not pinned, but that's okay. So who's ever going to pin me, you could pin me. One of my favorite things to have when anybody comes over is vegetables because, hello, yes, Marilyn Smith, Queen of Fiber, and also I'm a huge vegetable lover. And I usually serve it with hummus. And this recipe is so much fun. I'm really impressed with it. So you're going to start off with just regular hummus. And there's lots of different kinds, and you need 2 packages, and the recipe calls for, I think, 227. And so I'm just telling you that when you go to the grocery store, there's lots of different brands, and they all have kind of different amounts. Okay. So this is like a no name from Sobeys. This is my favorite hummus. This is Fontaine Santé. And they all are different sizes. So the recipe calls for 227. So you can get two plain or you can mix them. This is also roasted garlic, but they also come with roasted red pepper. And you just want to make sure on the back. I looked at all the list, the nutrition facts, and they're all really similar. The difference is that Some of them add water, and so they have less calories. So this one adds water. I think that's why I like this one better, is because it's more chickpea tasting, but it's totally your call. So what I was going to do is I was going to mix two of them together. So I'm going to put some of the red pepper hummus on the platter. So it's just kind of a cool way of presenting a really neat dish. So you're going to put it on the platter as a kind of a swirl. And when if anybody's ever seen food stylists, it really is all about presentation, right? So you're just going to do, it's called a schmear. That's a technical term. And then I'm going to add all of this, even though it's about a tablespoon more. I'm going to put it on top. So I've got two different colors, two different kinds, and I kind of swirl it together. And I thought this was really appropriate for Thanksgiving because it's orange, and so you've got to kind of it look like a bit festive. So I'm just going to swirl it like so. Looks so pretty. And then to that, there's a couple of additions that you're going to put on 2 tablespoons of chopped up black olives. And olives, people think are, oh, is that a big deal? Yeah, they're actually really good for your gut health, interestingly enough. So 2 tablespoons of them. And I like to just chop up olives and have them ready so that I don't have to go to the trouble of de-pitting them, which is a pain in the butt. It also calls for, what's my other ingredients in the fridge? It calls for some diced tomatoes and some cucumbers. And these are non-starchy vegetables, so they're a wonderful thing to have on hand. We eat a lot of cucumbers here in Ontario that are greenhouse. So these are product of Ontario. So I've already diced up my cucumber. And then I'm going to add my tomatoes that are cut into quarters. Now the recipe calls for cherry, but you could totally do, I did the little grape tomatoes because I thought that was actually they were on sale, and I think they look really pretty. I find sometimes cherry tomatoes get really gushy, so I like the plum tomato better. And then this is so much fun. We're going to add some more bells and whistles. So far it's looking really good. So the bells and whistles are mint and parsley. And we're just going to talk a little bit about knife skills for a minute. Now, I already chopped up this, but size matters in so many things. So the size of your knife should be related to how much you're going to be chopping. So this is I'm going to really mince this up a lot. So I wouldn't use this knife, and I certainly wouldn't, I'm not a big fan of, this is more like a chef's knife, but I love the flat edge one. So I'm going to use that one. And then always, I always check to see they're sharp every single time. So if you have a steel, just sharpening it a couple of times like this, and then don't forget to wipe it off in case there's any little bits of metal. So I usually rinse it off, and then I'm just going to dry it on a tea towel and hand on the top so that you don't chop your hand off. And then we're just chopping up the parsley. So one of the things that I do for parsley is that it's not just a garnish for me. I put parsley in salads. I use parsley a lot. I put it in soups. And so this calls for a quarter cup, which it was. Now we're just going to sprinkle this on. This is looking prettier and prettier. If you want to make this for Christmas, you could just use the plain hummus without the orange, but I think the orange is very, very festive for right now. And
Marilyn, at
then,
Christmas, I
yes,
do tzatziki, so white yogurt on the bottom.
yes,
And then I still keep the cucumber and tomato for red and green, but I put a little
yeah.
bit of pomegranate seeds on top. So it's a fully red,
Oh,
green, and white dish, and it still tastes
oh,
amazing.
that sounds fabulous. I'm looking for my mint. Here it is. That's a great idea, Kayla. And Kayla also put some sumac on it, and sumac is a nice kind of a tangy spice that there's no salt in, and a lot of like mixed spices have salt in them, and you got to be really careful about how much salt you're using. So we're going to put a little sprinkle of sumac on here, just a little hint of it. I can hardly wait to eat this. And then let's just look at the mint. Now you could put dill on this if you wanted to, but I really like mint and like grow it in my backyard. And people buy things and then it goes to slime in the refrigerator. So one of the things that I do is whenever I go to pick an herb, whether it's in my garden or at the grocery store, is I rinse it off and then I let it sit on the counter until it's perfectly dry. And that way, when I wrap it up in a paper towel and put it in the fridge, it has less of a chance to turn into slime and go bad. I'm going to show you how I do my parsley. And anyway, so I'm just going to pull the leaves off. And you can pick them off individually if you want to give your partner something to do that is a boring job. Or what I do is I just pull it off like this. When we were going through the pandemic, Scott, I'd give him all these really goofy jobs and I wouldn't show him how to do them the easy way. And so we'd keep him busy for hours. Anyway, so yeah, so that was a little joke. We had a whole bunch of Instagram things called Keep Him Busy. Now, I like to do kind of a chiffonade with mint leaves or with basil. So you sort of roll them up as tight as you can. And then with the knife, you just slice it really thinly so that you have, it's like ribbon. So chiffonade is another word for ribbon. Silly chiffonade is a very shishi poo poo chef term, but it's really pretty. And so we're going to do a little chiffonade. These guys didn't look very good, so we'll just put them over there. I would use them in my own house, but I'm trying to impress the heck out of you guys. Okay, and then a little sprinkle. This is so chefy. The higher you do it, the better. Look, this is so television-y. Anyway, you don't have to do all that. So there's that thing. Okay, it's fantastic. And now this is the best part, the chips. Okay, so you all love chips. I love chips. I love crunchy. Thumbs up for anyone who likes crunchy. I'm a kind of a crunch girl. Like I like celery. Yeah, lots of thumbs up. So these are pita chips. Now, when you go to buy a store-bought crack, oh my God, you guys are my people. This is Crunch City. Okay. So I'm going to show you what they look like because they're so good. So these are whole wheat pitas. And look, they are so beautiful, and they're listen to this. Oh my God, stop crunchy. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to make them. So you need 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, a teaspoon of garlic powder, which I measured out, and now it's lumpy, and a teaspoon of oregano. Now, if you want, you could put more, and I have because I love garlic so much. And so, okay, now the garlic. So I got to tell you, like I know it doesn't look like I did a lot of stuff. But something like this takes about 4.5, 5 hours to prep. So I decided, oh, I'm going to be so smart. And I'm going to measure the garlic powder out first thing this morning. Well, it's humid in here, so it's gone lumpy. Anyway, I'm just going to, now you could use fresh garlic if you want, but for sure use the microplane, but you don't want to have a big hunk of garlic. So you just stir that up and you're going to use your little brush. And then you need 3 of the skinny pitas. So when you go to the grocery store, there's all these different shapes of pitas. Like there's these thick ones, and then there's these little ones, but you want to get the skinny ones. So these are whole wheat. Whole wheat is good for you. And as an interesting tip, did you know that if you freeze your bread, your whole grain whole wheat bread, and then thaw it out, it becomes a resistant starch. And Katie, who teaches this wonderful class that I work with her on Thursdays once a month, resistant starch is something I wrote about in Peace, Love, and Fiber, my wonderful best-selling book that a couple of you are going to win every week. So when I wrote about resistant starch back in 2017, when I was writing the book, we only knew that it was from cold cooked potatoes, cold cooked pasta, green bananas, and cold cooked rice. But now we know that if you chill something like a whole grain and then thaw it out, that it's going to resist digestion. And so it's actually so much better for you. So I'm just going to show you one. So you would evenly distribute the oil onto the 3 of these pitas. And then you're going to so here's my little trick. Where'd it go? I like using a pizza cutter. So you're going to cut this into 8. And I like to flip it over so that's a little bit easier to do. And then into 4. And then now if you don't have a pizza cutter, you can use a knife. And I think if you score it and then saw, it works better, but I think it's fun. I don't know. And thumbs up, who's got a pizza cutter? It's like one of the funnest things. I use it for more than pizza. We got thumbs good. Yeah, there's certain gadgets in your kitchen that just sort of they're multi-purpose. And so I get sweet potatoes and I score them with the pizza cutter. And then it kind of looks like they're, what do they call that when they're all opened up? I can't remember. Anyway, it just looks so cool when you cook a whole sweet potato when you do it that way. And all these little kind of tips that you're eating with your eyes and you're going, oh my gosh, this looks so amazing. I know I'm gonna love it. So when you line them on your tray, I don't know if you can see, but I did them. It's sort of a math. It's like a Jenga puzzle, so that they'll be on the sheet. They'll fit on easier. So each pita is going to be like its own little row. Okay, can you see what I've done? And then don't put them on a pan that has an edge. This is a cookie sheet. Pans with edges are they're going to keep the heat and they won't get as crispy. Now it says you don't have to put them on a lined pan, but I like aligning everything. So okay, I'm just going to show you. So I already bit into that one, so I won't show you. So when I serve this, then I like to put the little crackers in there, and one serving is 3 of these and a big generous scoop of that. And we've even had this for dinner in the summer when we're sitting outside and it's like, okay, well, let's just have a whole. And even when I do it like that, then I will put more chickpeas on top to kind of give it kind of a more of a bite. So this one is going to be a big hit at Thanksgiving. Everyone's going to love it. And if they don't, give me their name and I'll call them. Okay. And say, what is wrong with you? You could also put, some garlic into here as well. But yeah, so making vegetables and healthy eating is what, if this is easy and this is fun, and don't be intimidated by this because getting back into the kitchen, you are helping your body so much. You're helping not only that your family member or you that are living with diabetes, but you're helping everybody. Because if we all ate like this, we'd all be a whole ton healthier. Okay, I think that's all I want to say.
Marilyn, can you just hold
Yeah,
that up towards your camera? Lovely,
isn't it
gorgeous.
pretty?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
so yeah, big hit on big hit for Halloween too. You could make it all orange.
yeah, for
Hey, I
sure.
wonder if we could even put like have like a sweet potato element, like a roasted cooked sweet potato. I'm gonna try that. Anyway, okay. Yes,
All right. I'm gonna let you off
clean
spotlight
up. Yes,
and
good.
get ready for the little how-to segment we're going to end with.
Yep.
And I'm going to turn things over to Katie to talk a bit about snacking. There's a lot of questions in the Q&A, so hopefully we can leave a few minutes at the end to get to some of those questions as well. So, Katie, I'll turn it over to you, and I'm going to scan the Q&A to see if there's any other snacking questions in there or other questions we can address while Marilyn is getting ready for the how-to section.
Sounds good. My mouth is watering just thinking about those pita chips and the sumac. I love using those actually for croutons sometimes too in a salad just to add a bit of crunch. Would make a perfect snack. So yeah, let's dive into healthy snacking. I think there's always lots of questions about whether or not snacking is a good thing, a bad thing, where it fits. And the answer is it's completely individual. So we have to think about overall nutrition. We need to think about blood sugar control, weight management, trying to meet nutritional needs. In many instances, snacking can be helpful. It can help to fill certain gaps with nutrition. I like to think of snacking also as an opportunity to try and get more fruits and vegetables into our diet. 78% of Canadians are not getting enough fruits and vegetables. And as a little refresher, we want to try and get 7 to 10 servings per day. So snacking can help to fill that gap, as well as most Canadians are only getting about half of the recommended amount of fiber. So if we can use that as an opportunity to add fruits and vegetables, fiber-rich foods, that's a very good thing. There are certain circumstances where snacking can be really important, especially if somebody struggles to manage their blood sugar. So looking at the overall composition of the diet, if somebody is going like 4 to 6 hours between meals without having anything and they're running the risk of hypoglycemia, a snack, especially one with carbohydrates and protein, can be really helpful in stabilizing blood sugar and preventing hypoglycemia. Some people find too that having a bedtime snack can help to better their morning sugars especially if they struggle with nocturnal hypoglycemia, so nighttime lows. So all of my clients that are on insulin and have had episodes of low blood sugars overnight, I do always want them checking their blood sugar. And if it is below 7, I do suggest that they have a snack before bed to try and stabilize their sugar to reduce the risk. During pregnancy and things like that as well, snacking can help to maintain calorie levels and meet nutritional needs. So I think, yeah, it just depends on individuals. When we are snacking, we want to focus on two things specifically. We want to focus on fiber-rich carbohydrates and aiming for 1 to 2 servings, which is about 15 to 30 grams, as well as adding at least 7 grams of protein. The protein is going to help to slow the digestion of the carbohydrates, which helps to stabilize blood sugar. So when you're putting a balanced snack together, you want to think fiber-rich carbohydrate plus at least 7 grams of protein. And if you look at that new resource that was created in partnership with Novo Nordisk, it has really wonderful examples where you can mix and match different carbohydrate options and protein. You can play around, see what works for you. And I would start to like build a healthy snack based on those concepts. I find personally that, it is hard to get enough fruits and vegetables. And so if you kind of prep things, you have it visible, it's a lot easier to make healthier choices versus if something's, if you got to dig at the bottom of the fridge to get vegetables out, you're probably not going to go snacking on that. So making things easier for yourself by doing a little prep work, having it ready to go can definitely help to increase healthy snacking habits.
That's great. A few questions came in specifically around snacking, and if we have time at the end, I'll get you to answer one of the other ones. But one of the questions is around living on a budget. How can you get some good protein and fiber snack combinations in on a budget? And maybe you could speak a little bit to that, and I'll think about a few in my mind as I'm listening.
Yeah, for sure. So, actually, eggs are a fabulous choice because they are such a great source of protein, complete protein. And if you look at the average price of an egg in Canada, it's about 26 cents. And for 26 cents, you're getting 6.5 grams of protein. It doesn't really get better than that. Like that's going to be the biggest bang for your buck, I would say. Peanut butter can be a great source of protein on a budget. Seeds can also be a good source of healthy fats and protein. When it comes to fiber-rich carbohydrates, if you can opt for a whole grain or a whole grain product that's high in fiber, usually you can find those reasonably priced. Big fan of beans and legumes. I think we all are, especially the queen fiber. I like doing like a little bean salad, having that in the fridge and then topping it with a little bit more protein or a little bit more carb to round it out. Beans are pretty inexpensive, so I do suggest that, especially in my practice. I work with a lot of people who are on pretty strict budgets, so beans and legumes go a long way. And things like tofu. Tofu is pretty inexpensive, so it's usually about $4 for a brick of tofu. And if you're gonna like do that in a meal, then half a brick would be about 25 to 30 grams of protein. But if you wanted to have that as a snack, that would stretch a lot further. Or things like edamame. Frozen edamame is another good choice. It's usually a few dollars and it's a complete protein. So usually the protein foods are the ones that soak up a lot of people's budgets. And fruits and vegetables these days, but those would be my top recommendations.
Someone asked about popcorn in the chat, and that's one of my favorite snacks. It's loaded with fiber. You get 3 cups is just 15 grams of carbohydrate. And if you combine it with a small handful of peanuts or something, it's a fairly reasonably priced snack that's incredibly filling and delicious all at the same time.
Absolutely. And you can make it at home. It takes very few tools to be able to do that. You can control what you put in it. It can be a great vessel for flavor too. Like sometimes I'll do zest of a lime plus some chili
Oh,
powder and
yeah.
kind of make my own combo. I also find it's a really good alternative if you're a chip person because it still provides that crunch, but you're getting a lot more fiber. You're not getting that saturated fat. So definitely popcorn is a total win. Yeah, in all ways.
That's great. All right. So, Marilyn,
I'm
thank you,
ready.
Katie. I will
Notice.
turn it back over you to the how-to segment. So this segment is really just to provide you with some meal planning tips and other sort of cooking and nutrition information that'll help you make your everyday easier from a food perspective. So
So we're calling it cook it once and eat it twice. And this is how I live my life because my life is very busy and I know all of yours is. So we can make it easier, that's all the better. And easier and nutritious is even better. So one of the things I do once a week, once every other couple of weeks, I'll cook a whole bunch of beans. Now I am in as far as convenience is concerned, I say use a can of beans. But if you want to save some more money, and this is a good source of protein as well, you can cook beans. So I have a pressure cooker. And I know that a lot of you soak your beans ahead of time and then cook them, but this is like exponentially faster. But I've had this for a really long time. So don't go and buy one of these just because you think you're going to save money. You have to use it all the time. And so it works out to be about 1.5 cups of beans that you would rinse really well, to 3 cups of water. And then I just follow the directions on my pressure cooker and it cooks in about 35 minutes. So that is a really cool thing. And then you've got them in your fridge. Now, if I don't use them this week to put into a salad or maybe make a hummus myself, then I'm going to freeze them and they freeze really well. So that's one easy little tip to have. And, and when you come home from work and you're like, I'm going to kill someone if I don't eat anything right away. A handful of chickpeas over some lettuce with a little bit of salad dressing is actually, it's a wonderful, it's got fiber, it's got protein, and you don't want it, you feel like you actually feel better instantly. Now, the other thing I do once a week is I cook either quinoa or I do barley. Sometimes I will cook wheat berries, sometimes I'll cook rice, but I'll cook a big batch, I'll double it up. So there's my quinoa, there's my pot barley. And when I cook it up, I'll make double and then I'll freeze it flat. So I squish all the air out and then I label it with how much it is. And 2 cups is good for 4 people. So that's about a half a cup of serving. And then there's the quinoa as well. So, this takes up the most time. Since I guess pot barley takes about 35, 40 minutes to cook. And so you've eliminated that step. So all you have to do is think about the night before, what am I going to have for dinner tomorrow? Take these out of the freezer and thaw them in the fridge. If they're not completely thawed, then you can just warm them up in the microwave. Okay. And then the quinoa I showed you, I always have that whole grain ready. So we haven't gone through it all this week, but I've been making salads with this. So this will be part of a salad that I'll just add some vegetables to. All right. Speaking of eggs, like Katie said, 2 eggs are a wonderful source of protein. And what I like to do is hard cook about 6 or 8 eggs a week. And then, if you don't have time, is for a quick grab and go breakfast, you just take an egg and they last a week when they're hard cooked in the shell. Don't crack them. You don't want to get any air in them. And then I store them once I've cooked them in a airtight container. And then for lunch, I might just take 2 eggs. Or I might just have 2 eggs at home for a quick breakfast on a piece of toast with a side of, tomatoes or something. Another one of my big tips is the recipe I made for the for those little baby quiches with the eggs. I already pre-measured, so it's 1.5 cups of mozzarella and a third of a cup of cornmeal. And I put it together in the bag so that when I go to make this the next time, then I've got all this done. So it's easier to make because all I have to do is beat the eggs, add the spices, cook up the onion and the carrot. I also, whenever I have a little bit of cheese left over, I just grate it and then once again squeeze all the air out and then I freeze that as well. And so that could go on something. All right, moving on to vegetables. Whenever I make a salad, I make enough for a couple of days that I chop up the vegetables. So I do 2 different things. So I'll do a prep of vegetables. So this one would be for the salad. They're smaller. There's pieces of celery and red pepper. And then this one would be for dip because I eat hummus pretty much every other day for as a snack. So I'm getting the fiber, I'm getting more vegetables, like Katie said, and I'm getting some protein. And then at the end of the, if I think, okay, I'm sick of this, then I can either throw them in a soup or I could stir fry this. And then I even do cucumber already, but cucumber I wouldn't store in with these guys because it'll turn it all to slime. So, when you make things ahead of time, yeah, sure you have to do it, but you're already doing it. So just do a little bit more. That's the whole idea. Okay, my other really fun one is I do re-roast a lot of vegetables. And so this is whenever I roast cauliflower and broccoli, I do a whole bunch more and then I chill it because I'm going to show you what I'm going to make. So here's my big tip. I'm going to make you another quick little recipe. So pasta, this is a smart pasta that has fiber in it. It's got resistant starch and it's apparently locked onto this. Anyway, here we go. And so I will cook extra pasta. And when you cook pasta and then chill it, it becomes a resistant starch. Now I'm making my lunch tomorrow because I have to go to university again. And I'm going on the GO train, so pray for me. So we're going to use about a half a cup of pasta. So a half a cup of the smart pasta is about 5 grams of protein, and it's got quite a lot of fiber in it as well. And then to that, uh, I like tuna. We eat it. I guess I eat tuna at least once or twice a week. So there's a half a can of tuna that was in the fridge. I'm just going to crumble that up for some protein. And then I'm going to add some of my chickpeas that I did. Oh my goodness. I'm going to add a half a cup of chickpeas with my mother's measuring cup. God bless her. So there's a half a cup of chickpeas. So I have fiber, I have complex carbohydrates going on. And then I'm going to add some of those olives that I chopped up. Where did they go? Here they are. So there's some olives that I'm going to chop up, maybe about a tablespoon, throw those in for some flavor. And then the vegetables that I had for salad, I'm going to take a couple of the vegetables out and I'm going to kind of coarsely chop that with a knife to just throw that into the salad. So this is going to be my lunch, and I'm going to be able to make it in like less than 5 minutes. To that, I'm going to add one of the other things I do is when I buy green onions, and this is a great way to make sure they don't go rot, is that take them out of the take the elastic off them because when they're all squished together, the moisture gets locked in and it accelerates getting, they all go rotten. And you don't want that to happen. And I don't wash them. I leave them loosely in a bag. And then I might rinse some off because I'm making a salad. Like we have salad pretty much every night or every other night. And so I'll already pre-chop those. I'll have dried them off, pre-chop them. And I put them in a container that has some paper towel in it. And look at that. I'm going to use it in my wonderful lunch. And then
Mar
to that, what else?
Marilyn,
Yes. Yeah.
sorry. I'm just going to give you a 30-second heads
Okay.
up. We have
Okay.
one very consistent question that Katie needs to answer before we wrap up and close the show. So
Okay, okay.
finish your
I'm
salad
just
off.
gonna I'm just gonna put a whole bunch of vegetables in, at least 2 cups for my balanced plate, and I'm gonna add a tablespoon of oil and a tablespoon of vinegar, toss that up, and I've got my lunch already. And so I didn't have to do a whole bunch of work, and it makes your life easier. So cook it once, eat it twice. Okay, take it away, Katie.
Katie, quickly in
Yes.
like 2 minutes, can you please explain resistant starch?
Yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
sorry, honey.
Yeah, I love telling people about resistant starch because I feel like it just provides a bit of joy and hope that, carbohydrates can actually provide some additional benefits, other than helping with blood sugar maintenance. So, resistant starches they're not digested in the same way that regular starches are. So there's something called retrograded starches. There's actually, I think, about 5 different types of resistant starch, but the most common is a retrograded starch, and that is essentially what Marilyn was saying. So when starchy things like potato, pasta, rice has been cooked and then cooled, essentially what happens is the structure of the starch changes, and it changes in a way that it starts to act like a fiber. And so what that does is it doesn't increase blood sugar to the same degree. It essentially makes it a lower glycemic food. And it also helps to feed the good bacteria in your gut. So it produces something called short chain fatty acids. I believe butyrate is the one in particular. So it's a good prebiotic for those healthy gut bacteria, and it lowers the glycemic load of the carbohydrate that it is, whether it's rice or potatoes or pasta. There's other foods that have like more naturally occurring resistant starches. There's also foods now that have been produced like in products to contain that. So yeah, I love to tell people to cook and cool and then gently reheat things like potatoes, rice, pasta, or doing things like Marilyn mentioned, such as putting bread in the freezer. That can also affect the starch molecules in that same way and lower the glycemic impact. So it's good news.
It is good news. I feel like we could do a whole class on that maybe
We
next
could.
year.
Can I just butt in one
Marilyn and
second?
I have.
Yes,
Okay.
you can have 10 seconds and then
10 seconds.
I will close it up.
So potato salad, okay, resistant starch. Pasta salad, resistant starch. So those are two other examples. Okay, that was less. Okay, go.
Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope all of you enjoyed this. And we'll be back next week for our class on cooking for two, which was another highly requested session from last year. So, Marilyn, I'll give you the last word and go, Jays, go.
Yes, this is perfect timing. We're all going to be able to see the game. Try to make your life easier. Being healthy, eating healthy, you feel better. And that's the main thing. So I'm 71 years old and I love that I've been eating like this all my life. So let's do this together and we'll see you next week.